In the previous RP2350 video, we started printing out characters on the serial UART and the USB and emulated UART on USB. On previous video, we were blinking a LED. Now, if we look at the block diagram, and I mentioned that in the previous videos, if we look at the block diagram of the RP2350, you will notice that there are actually two cores up here, and they are identical. There are two identical cores. They can run either as a Cortex M33, or they can run as RISC-V. I have not been touching RISC-V yet on this channel, but I will later, I guarantee you that. But so far, we have actually only used one of these cores. So today, I'm going to enable the secondary core. So stick around this video to the end, and you will know how to do that. So hello viewers, and welcome to a new RPP World video where, as mentioned earlier today, we will be enabling the secondary core in the RP2350. Now, in this series, we are using the current maker's Streamline development system, and I'll be using this particular board setup today, where we are having a CMakeLists debug probe here, and next to it we have the RP2350. Now, the benefit of this modular development system is that if you have a project where you want to try another MCU, you can simply have another setup. Here I have another setup where I have a ST-Link actually, and I have an STM32F405, and I have an Ethernet module. I have not yet tested this on the Pico RP2350, but it should work. It has been made so that it should work. If you want to support this channel, by far the best way to do that is to go and buy yourself one of these. If you are using super things and all that jazz on YouTube, Google take a hefty 30% of that and put it into their own pocket. So buy a Streamline today instead. It is way better. And please do like and subscribe this video down below. It helps the channel grow. If you ever watched any of my videos over on the STM32 World channel, you will know that I started very detailed, and then as the videos moved on, I left out more and more of the startup details, and assume you watched the earlier videos. This video series is not going to be any different. I'm not going to go through the entire setup in every single video. So I think this will be the last one where I actually start the whole project. In the following videos, I will simply have done all this already. Now, I have a folder that I have cloned from GitHub called RP Fun, and in that RP Fun there's an examples folders, and in that example folder are the examples that I have made so far. So there is a blink which corresponds with the first blinky, and then I have a blink 2, which is the second blinky, and I have the serial, which is the serial print. So starting a new project at the moment is simply a matter of copying the old folder into a new folder. So copy serial, I will take the last one I have, and I will call this one dual, for dual core. So there, now we have a new folder called dual, and I will go into, here we have it, VS Code, and I will open that folder. It should find it there. We are in, where did it go? There we have RP. Okay, here we have it. So dual we simply open Joule and get started on this new project. Now, there's surprisingly little to be done to do this. Let's open. First of all, we have to make a small change in the CMakeList. In the CMakeList, down towards the bottom, we open some libraries that are necessary for this particular project, and we need to add a library down there, and the library that we need to add is called, right here. Here we go. We need to have one called Pico multicore. That library needs to be included in order to actually have all the library features that enables us to do that. That is the only change needed in the CMakeList. Let's just, for fun, see if it builds the project compile. Let's compile the project. And let's try to flash it. We have the device running up there. I have connected it. So let's try to, before we do that, let's start up a serial console. Here we have something is running already, but let's try to flash using SVD. You see it stopped and it stopped blinking. And there we go. It starts up at 150 megahertz. And you can see that is running, and up there you can see that it is indeed also blinking. Anyway, let's look at starting up the secondary core. And for that, we go in and we look at the main C, and we need to include a timer up in the top of the file here. We can put it here. So include Pico multicore. There. It always changes the order. I am not sure why VS Code insists on doing that. Well, I know which part of VS Code is doing that. It is actually the what is it called? The Microsoft installed. The IntelliSense is doing that. I am not sure. Can probably be disabled, but it's okay. I would assume that it actually know what it is doing. Now, it's important to understand that if we go back here and look at the block schematics, two separate cores, and they run completely independent on each other. So the default main is running in one core, but from that core you can fire up the secondary core, and each of them operate completely separate from each other. So the way you're doing that is you are creating another function, and I have where are we? I'll copy this from another one. I have it here. So let me show you this, and we go in here. So down here, before the main, I will add a new function here, and that function I will call core 1 entry, because core 0 is running already. And I need to introduce a little concept here, and that is something called a mutex. The problem is when you're running two cores completely separate from each other, if both those cores are trying to access the same peripheral at exactly the same time, bad things can happen. And in order to prevent that, we have a concept called a mutex. A mutex is short for mutually exclusive. So the idea is that you request a mutex, and if it's available, it is given to you, and if it's not available, you will simply wait until it becomes available. And that mutex needs actually to be created. And what we need a mutex for here is the printf, and that is actually quite easy to create. There's a lot of support for that in the Pico SD library. So if we go up here, we can do it up at the very top. We simply also init mutex, and we make a mutex we call printf mutex. So whenever I want to print something, I will request exclusive access to the mutex, to the printf, to the feature, in this case print, which goes to a serial port. I actually, to be absolutely honest, I don't think it's necessary with printf, because I think the Pico printf is already aware of this, but it is a good thing to do it anyway. So let's do that. So if we look at the core, I start by entering, I request a mutex for printf, and I'll print out our core 1 is booting, and then I'll release the mutex again. This was some stuff from an old one. And then down here, I'll do pretty much exactly the same I do in the main loop, except I will offset this by half of the tick delay. So, and I won't do the blinking. Of course, we can't blink from 2 unless I had 2 LEDs, but I don't. So I'll simply offset this with 500 milliseconds, so that they tick. It's really that simple. And down in the while loop, again, I will request a mutex before I print, and then I will print. Now, down in our regular main, we also need to make a few changes. First of all, again, it is not strictly necessary, but we should. Where are we? Well, I made this in the other one I was doing. Down where I'm printing out that it is booting, I am requesting a mutex first. Here we go. It is not strictly necessary at that point, because core 1 has not been started yet, but I mean, it is good. It's good practice to do this. And then down after the print, which will be here, we release the mutex again, and that is all we need to do this. And then down in our main loop, I will do the same every time I print. There. So down in the main loop, when I'm printing out, that will be here, I will request our mutex, and I will release that mutex again. Done. And that is all. Now all that is left is actually to start that other core. And that is really, really, really simple. If we go up here after we initialize our tick, but before we start our main loop, we simply call multicore launch core 1, and then point to that core 1 entry, which was the function we created up here. That is pretty much all that is necessary to make both of these cores run. Let's try to see if we can actually compile this project. And we couldn't. What went wrong? No, it did. It compiled. Okay. It was not very chatty because it already compiled the whole library. So it compiled. Now let's try to flash it. And well, the first thing to look at is whether the blink comes up after it's done flashing. And it did. And then let's look at the serial output and see what is happening here. First, core 0 is booting, running on ARM, 150 megahertz, and then core 0 is booting. And now you will have core 0 prints out a tick at 1000, Core 1 at 1500, Core 0 at 2000, and so on. So in other words, now we have both the cores running, and both of the cores are printing out 500 milliseconds, half a second out of sync with each other, and Core 0 is also blinking. Core 0 is also taking care of the callback for the system timer, the millisecond timer. Remember, we had that millisecond timer that updated the sysdig. So 2 cores are running, and each of them are running pretty much at the same speed. So we already have 24 million loops, which is way more than 168 megahertz STM32F405. It is also more than the M33 ARM Cortex in STM32. So this one at 150 megahertz is running faster already. But now we have 2 cores, and where 2 cores have value is like if you have repetitive tasks. Say, for example, you were running TCP/IP. If once we get these Ethernet up and running, the IP stack, it would make great sense to let that IP stack run in a separate core, so you don't have to delay what else you're doing while you're servicing TCP/IP. That is, by the way, if you look at ESP32, that's how they do it. The whole Wi-Fi stack is running in one core, and the rest is running in the other core. You can do things in the other core as well. That's up to you. So 2 cores running on a Raspberry Pi RP2350 with very, very few changes, and that's about it. As usual, all these examples will be pushed to GitHub. I will link the GitHub repository down below, so go and look at the description. And while you're down there, do please like and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. As usual, have a wonderful rest of the day.